I had a dream, Tracy, and there was like with this job or something. There was, which doesn't make sense, but there was like a really nice boat that was rented for the company, and it was supposed to be where all the families of the people who worked for the company were gonna go on the boat for the day, and it was gonna be so much fun. And in the dream, he was getting this huge slab of meat ready. It was enormous, like a huge pork loin that was probably bigger than any oven we have owned. It would not have fit inside. And it didn't really make sense because it was like he was trying to microwave it, but there was also a camera. He was taking the camera, and I thought at first that he was getting ready for the trip for the day with the boat with the family, but as the dream played out, he was actually getting that meat and the camera. He was getting it ready, and he was going off somewhere by himself. And me and the kids later were heading to the boat party work thing without him, and I ended up telling. There was like a man. The kids wanted someone to read a story to them, and it was a man with his family walking to go to the boat too. And I was upset, and they wanted their dad to read them a story, and he wasn't there because he had gone off by himself. And so I asked the man in my dream, which dreams don't make sense, right? But I asked the man, I'm like, would you please read my kids a story? So he said sure. So we all ended up sitting down, and his wife sat down, and I introduced myself to her, and I asked her if she minded, and she said she didn't. And okay, so that was toward the end, but back with the meat, the amount of meat and everything that it was like unreal. Like it would have fed family after family. And I ended up saying something about like that was a lot of food for him, and that he must have been that he was going to be sharing it with someone, and that he was probably seeing a woman. And then I said something about don't you love me, and he laughed like, and he was like, no, I've never loved you. And in my dream it was like I was shocked, and it was just a crazy dream. And there was like a small camera, which we haven't owned two cameras at once like that, not really, but in the dream there was like a small camera that was red, like our family camera we had for years. He was taking the normal or bigger one, but there was like a little tiny one just like it that was miniature, and it was like I could take that for the day for me and the kids to go on this day trip with his company. He wasn't going, but we could have the little tiny camera because he was taking the big camera wherever he was going to spend it with the woman or whoever he was spending it with. And I just can't get over the size of the meat. Like as I'm even speaking right now, like the downloads that I'm getting, it's kind of like some of these things are definitely in some way related to like him taking from me and him being selfish and him like always doing what's best for him. And I mean, just being greedy. It's a very, very strange dream, and I didn't really have another dream recently. I had like a kind of a epiphany when I first woke up a few days ago that I could just kind of release certain things, but I just don't normally dream. Oh, I did have a dream. It was about fish. That's what it was. I had a dream the other day, and I woke up, and I remembered it just like this, and I remember it still in the dream the other day. Okay, in the dream, I was using the bathroom, and I stood up, and I looked at the toilet, and the toilet water had these really kind of decent sized fish, like much larger than my hand, and they were beautiful. They weren't ugly, and the toilet water was clear. It wasn't poopy or gross or anything, and the fish were swimming in one direction, and like they were alive and happy fish. They weren't like pet fish. They were definitely I don't know what kind of fish they would have been. They were almost like blue and gray or blue silver with like a white belly. They were pretty and healthy, and in a dream it was almost like the toilet would have had to have been bigger than any regular real toilet would be, because the fish were so doggone big. And I do remember feeling like, did that come out of me? Almost like the feeling of parasites or something. Like I remember questioning in the dream, like kind of like, that's cool, like those are nice fish, but did that just come out of me? And I don't know what that was all about. But now this dream about Tracy, oh my gosh, and like the cruelty and stuff in the dream was, I mean, the dream was kind of over the top, but the cruelty was like what I've been dealing with all these years. The stuff that the kids saw some of it, but they didn't see everything. And oh my gosh, I'm just wondering what this means, because I have literally this is probably my third dream in like years. So that's like 2 dreams recently that I actually remember. And I don't know, I used to pretty much, if I didn't have some way of, which is why I'm doing this on my recording app, but if I didn't have some way to like usually would forget it within, like, I don't know, I would say within just a minute or two or seconds from waking. That was years ago, and I was under a lot more drama and stress, but I don't normally dream. And I feel like this means something because I haven't been thinking about Tracy. I've been thinking about wanting to get the car fixed, even though I don't want to spend my lawyer money on it. I've been thinking about wanting to see the kids without Tracy always being right there and me not having kind of the means to do that. And I don't know. But when I woke up and I was thinking about this dream, I was like, oh my god, like, am I supposed to tell this, you know, if we go to court, am I supposed to tell the judge? Like, it's like nobody really believes me, but I feel like should have just, like, say, you know, he's a pathological liar, he's raped me for decades, you know, he'll do anything and everything, like, he's unstable. But it's like, as I think about it, I know that I don't have proof. And then I question if I'm supposed to be willing just to, like, almost forsake the kids. I don't want to do that, but oh my gosh, the bondage, the real true bondage, like the power he's had over me, the way when I didn't want to keep having sex with him, and he would use the Bible verses. This is when I was like such a hardcore Christian. It had been for so long, and he would say, well, doesn't the Bible say that your body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to me? And he would just weaponize the Bible that he didn't believe in, that I did. He would just do anything. It was like nothing was too low for him because he is not stable. I know the children cannot be actually being taken care of in a loving and caring way because he's really incapable of that level of connection. Yes, he can make a meal, he can do laundry, he can do things, but I hope and pray for their safety because every part of him that is just kind of puts on that he's a front, it's a mask, it's not real, and there's no way to really like prove that through the court system. This amount of meat was like, I guess almost maybe if you would just take a humongous pork like loin like that. I don't even think how big the freaking animal would have to have been, but it's like to think about the meat. It was like if it was sitting on the oven, like I don't know what kind of pan it would have been in, but it would have been taken up pretty much like the whole. It wasn't square, it was more oval, but it would have been almost taken up nearly the whole stovetop, like a glass stovetop range. It was just this enormous, and I don't know, just thinking about the unfairness of everything and the way he didn't want me to have any money to hire a lawyer, but I ended up taking without, you know, a lot. I took all of it, I guess, of our child tax credit, which was like $10,000, and then there was like more money he hadn't even told me about. And when I saw it in a joint account, it was also a tax return, but it was like the smaller amount, like a state tax return. He hadn't even told me about it, and it was like $5,000, and this was like within probably days of me taking the $10,000. And he wouldn't move out of the house back then. You know, he was refusing to move out of the house, and the Mennonites were telling him not to move out of the house, and I couldn't take living with him anymore. I was that as a job, it had been so long, it had been decades of such horrible abuse that really it's so ironic that nobody really understands or sees it. Even the kids, they don't see it, and it's crazy. But it was like in the dream, I was desperate, like I used to be, desperate for his love and his care, desperate for him to like not want to cheat, but to be, you know, to want me. And oh my gosh, and then I was also like, so at the end of the dream, when the other person, which it was like they were neighbors we hadn't met before, but when he was reading to the children, I mean, oh my gosh, this was crazy. This is not a healthy thing to do, but this is a dream. So, but in the dream, I had made sure that his wife wasn't minding, and she wasn't. And then I was like, and there's our restroom in our house if you need to use the restroom. And then I just started like kind of just saying, she was like, is Tracy your husband, or who is he? And she was asking, and she was looking at her husband a certain way, like almost like, I'm gonna find out what the scoop is on this. It was really crazy. They were a black family, but okay. And then I was telling her yes, and then I started going off, and I started telling her, like, I feel like I was loud, where it would have been more than her to hear, but because she kept doing these like eyebrow movements to her husband, like, see, I told you kind of thing. But I ended up just telling her that, you know, he wasn't coming because he was going off with someone else, and then he had taken this huge amount of food, he had taken the Camry, and I just ended up like telling her all this stuff, and she had wanted to know how old he was, and I told her how old he was, and it was crazy. And I'm pretty sure that was the end of the dream, where I just kind of like spit out all these
some of it and like eating or tasting it, almost like eating it, like with his hands, just throwing some in his mouth. But as he was trying to get it ready, or I would say cooked all the way, but it wasn't cooked all the way. It was pretty much the detail I remember. Like it was really, really, really not cooked all the way. And I don't know if that would mean something. I don't know, even if dreams are supposed to mean something, or we just give meaning to things, and I'm not sure if it's a way that the spirit is communicating something to us. But it was crazy how uncooked the meat was.
I was whispering because I didn't feel safe at Mom's house. I intuitively didn't trust my mom or Christian, my nephew, who lived there. And so that was October of 2024 when I had that dream, or when I woke up from having that dream and recorded that. And it's funny now because I understand what a lot of it means. Fish represent like abundance, and like all my abundance had pretty much gone to shit supplying him his real wife, because our marriage is false. He's part of all my family. Both sides are part of I guess you would call it a satanic cult, but it hides under the guise of different Christian sects and religions like Mormon and Mennonite and just regular. And I don't really believe that there even is a Satan per se. It's just even Jesus, it's more like archetypes for being evil or being pure. And the meat that he was eating, and the fact that I was talking about so today is actually June 19th of 2025, but I'm recording this now. But the meat being uncooked, it's like, well, now I know that he killed our son, and now I know that him and these people that are part of this blood cult that's also incestuous and has to do with being a pedophile, that they eat human flesh and they have sex with kids, and they sacrifice babies. And I know that he's a serial murderer and a serial rapist, more than just of me. I know he's a child molester, that he's molested our children. I know that he's the only thing I can give him credit for is he has to be smarter than I ever thought he was, because he is a psychopath or a sociopath, but he's he's a psycho. He's a sociopath or a psychopath. And all these people are. It's like, it's not the minority of society, it's like half that are doing this, which is really crazy. But the dream was, I think, speaking to my abundance that's been being siphoned my whole life on purpose by Tracy, my soon-to-be ex-husband, and all my family. And through molestation, starting in infancy, passed around like a specimen to, sample. And that there are like a lot of people in this world that know who I am, and people I don't even know. And then people who were in the military with my soon-to-be ex, and just lots of people, my children's pediatrician, Dr. Applewhite, and just lots and lots and lots of people who are part of this group, this underground group, which includes, I believe, like the Freemasons, also like Skull and Bones, and what's it called? Templar Knights Templar, and it's a lot of groups. It's not, so the Mennonites being what seemed like a religious or a Christian sect that's very fanatical, are actually like high-ranking, elites that are posing under the guise of this like old town, quaint, we can be trusted, but they're money laundering. It's all of this is tied to money laundering and obviously sex trafficking of all sorts. And these things have been revealed to me in the last month by means of psychic ability. I believe my spirit guides are communicating with me, and as I even just came across this recording from last year or today on my phone and listened to it, I was like, I had forgotten, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, in that way through dreaming, which I don't dream a lot because I feel like I was abused so much, and I was attacked through dreams and stuff as a child, so I feel like there's so much protection around me. There's people have been hunting me, and I have been thoroughly, I'm not just convinced, but I've been thoroughly, I don't even know how to say it. I know 100%, like, it's fated. Me getting justice in the situation, and even like in the dream, I was telling the woman, and I'm talking about, in this whispered recording, I'm talking about like how it just doesn't seem fair, and should I try to tell? And I have tried to tell, but what's going to happen in the future, in the near future, is all of this stuff is coming to light, and it's taking down these false groups that are wicked. They're not at all what they appear to be, and bodies are going to be uncovered from swamps in the area, and this goes beyond just Virginia, and this goes beyond North Carolina, where my son Ethan was buried. This goes beyond America. This goes into other countries, and it's a huge thing. And I know that this is the reason that I was put here on Earth this time. And leaving the marriage was like because of the way that I had believed, and from the things the Bible says. was probably one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing I've ever done. And I have, buried a son who I didn't know was murdered, and another son that I lost at birth. And I'm not talking about miscarriages, but it's my abundance. I've reclaimed my abundance. And these people who are sending black magic to me, who are hunting, who have tried to enter into the hotel suite where I hid after being stalked by like over 40 people after I left a police station to report on crimes, like all of the shit's hitting the fan and all this stuff is coming out. And, there's just the hugeness of it is sort of like me trying to describe this piece of meat that he was eating with his hands that was raw. Like, it's so big. It's not just taking down of one cult, which would be something, like to take down the whole Mormon cult would be a huge thing. It's taking down multiple cults and just Christianity, because everyone knows that Christianity seems to be built on mostly hypocrites. But when the world finds out what Christianity, at least, I'm not saying every single one because I was never obviously doing this, but like let's say half of everything that calls itself Christian, we're actually like eating babies and sacrificing humans and murdering and all this stuff. Like, when the world knows that in a short while from now, that the impact of that, and my psychic knowing of these things ahead of time, and me with my YouTube channel, like making that very clear, even risking my life to make that very clear, it's going to really take the demonizing of, true spiritualism away, the way like witches were burned at the stake, even nowadays, like, a lot of people still think tarot reading and different things is like, because the Bible talks about, it's like sorcery, to divine, but I divine, and I'm not a witch, but I would be okay being referred to as a witch, but I don't cast spells. If I cast spells, I do it innocently with just my poems and just what I speak. I manifest through my mind and through my words, but I don't cast spells on people. I don't wish evil on people, even knowing now that my older 2, if not my older 3 kids were part of my son Ethan's murder approximately 11 years ago. Like, I don't wish to harm them. I wish the truth to come out, and it is, and justice, and I, will be glad when Tracy and some of these other people are not on this earth anymore, but I'm not going to kill them. These people who are hunting me down, I don't wish to have a gun and to shoot them instead. Like, I only want justice, and I don't wish evil on anybody, And that's the thing, and that's why I have so much spiritual protection, because this is so much bigger than me or them, and this goes into things we can't see. But in the spiritual realm, because my heart is pure, and that doesn't mean that I don't ever do anything wrong, but just like, I don't have evil intent, Do I buy too many things sometimes on Amazon, or do I, eat too much sometimes? Yes, like if we're going to, use those kind of things, like, which are kind of from the Bible, but like, if we're going to use those kind of measures, sure, like, I fall short, but that's not the point. The point is I have a pure heart, and I don't wish evil on people, and because of that, all this stuff that's been done to me since I was born, it's all coming to light, and people are going down, and many people have killed themselves already, and I know that. And then everyone's trying to play this, well, she must be insane card. That's just like in the, in the late 1800s, when men could, based on the Bible, could decide to put their wife away in an asylum, and the wife was not crazy. And, all this power over men ruling over women, even though we've had the women's movement, there's still just so much oppression. And then for people to be able to see really what the Bible, what it actually leads to. And I believe personally that every single pastor, I could be wrong, at least in what we know as denominations, maybe not in some little tiny one single church that's not part of a denomination, but I believe all the pastors and all the churches all throughout America and the world are all part of this blood incest cult. And they are, like the further I went with Christianity, trying to win the lost husband, which is why I ended up going to the Mennonite church and after Baptist churches, and I started covering my head as a symbol of submission, and I lost myself more and more as I tried to submit to things I really shouldn't have, and instinctively I knew that I shouldn't, but because of what the Bible said, I did. And so the Mennonites weren't, my spirit picked up on, they didn't seem to be what they should have been. They didn't seem to be like wholeheartedly sincere. Like, they just, I feel like I knew, even though my intuition was more muddled back then because I was so stifled. But the stream, I'm going to upload all this and my thoughts from today, because when all this stuff comes out, like, I knew. And how did I know? I knew because spirit guides are giving me downloads. My intuition is letting me know I'm not safe here. Yes, I noticed people were following me, but all this stuff, it's like, it's not a book. It's us. And it's really like awesome and marvelous, really, just to think about like the truth that I was being given in this, in these couple of dreams that I'm talking about back in October of 2024. And here we are, all this stuff, these people who've tried to kill me. And yes, it sounds crazy, I get it, but the truth is crazier than any lie. And I could not, even though I will write a book, probably won't be fiction, but I have thought about writing a novel. And the kind of stuff that has been my life is so much more far-fetched than any novel that I could have imagined writing, because even though there's twists and twists and turns in a plot for interest, like what's been my reality, which I don't even remember all of it. I know that I'm going to be remembering more molestation, but like all that it's been, like my childhood friends, their families, all of it was a setup. Like I was being handled. I was being like just constantly set up. My old friend Valerie is the one that took me to this club, and so it's the only time I ever went to the club at Little Creek Base in Virginia Beach, and that's where I met Tracy. But to know that now I know intuitively that she was part of it. She was Mormon, and I had been Mormon back then too, but it's deeper than just the Mormon or the Mennonite cover. That's more of a cover. But she knew Tracy, and this was, hey, I'll be the one to keep her from ever discovering her true reason for being here on Earth. I'll do this and I'll do that. And honestly, in the last 3 years since I left him, the realization I had to realize over time that it took me a long time to really believe that, because I don't think badly of people, but I did come to the conclusion that he did this stuff on purpose. But now that I know what he really is, it's like a whole nother paradigm shift. It's a whole nother and I'm still in the process of fully unwrapping all of that, because first of all, I don't know all the details yet, but it's all coming out, and they can't kill me. It doesn't matter the black magic, the practitioners hired, the voodoo. It's not stronger than my protection in the spiritual realm, and it's not about heaven or hell or some time later. It's here, it's now, and there's a real and there's a fake spiritual, and I believe that Tracy is married first, that our marriage is in fact invalid, even though it's 28 years long and we've had 11 children together, 9 of who are living, but that he is not actually, he's a polygamist, and he's married to Kix. I don't know her real name, but she's Alito Melton's live-in girlfriend / he would say wife, but they're not actually married. I guess common law marriage, and they have 3 kids together, and that's crazy, because me and him are supposed to be together, and that's crazy. But that's what I mean. The level of this is spiritual, and these are people who in the spirit knew about 2 fated souls and took their places in the roles of either of those people to manipulate and handle and keep them from discovering. And it really is. It's yes, it probably is similar to some movie themes, because it's true, and things that are true are used in smaller ways in movies and stuff like that, but it's wild. So I'm speaking this now because I know it's coming out, and I know that I have discovered my purpose for being here, and that I'm invincible, not because I am something so great, but I am pretty special, but because I have a pure heart, and I finally care more about me than anyone else. I still care about people a whole lot, and it's still hard for me to imagine this evil that is true, that I know is true, because I have just been getting so many downloads. So here we go.